lubricants, but there will always be incidental spillage from operating heavy equipment and machinery on site. Anyone can go to Rabaca now, investigate and examine who is operating there now, and see the level of spillage that is taking place, far more than could ever have been undertaken by Biggs. Furthermore, there is no evidence that spilled oils and diesel had gained access on the groundwater table through the sand and gravel to a depth of 52 feet. Remedial action. In March 2011, subsequent to the publication of the order and the closure of mining operations, Bigger Trucking and Construction has undertaken the following measures to mitigate this situation, namely, an oil spill platform was designed by Stewart Engineering and built of 6 inches thick reinforced concrete and about 64 square feet in that measurement, with a 2-inch PVC conduit to drain any spillage into a catchment also, built out of concrete and at measuring 3 feet wide by 3 feet deep. A similar platform with a drain pipe and catchment has also been constructed in the area where the motor vehicles are parked when not in use. It is intended that any oil spillage will drain into this catchment, thus avoiding seepage into the topsoil, and will be removed periodically for disposal in a manner consistent with the best practices recommended. Mining operations near the Rabaca Dry River. Mining was carried out at all material times over an area of 3 acres to a depth of about 10 to 12 feet with the use of an excavator. At no point was such mining conducted at a distance closer than 20 feet from the edge of the embankment, that is, to the river's embankment. The sand, gravel, and boulders were harnessed by the excavator and transported via motor trucks to the crushing plant, which is located in the middle of the land in the course of pouring operations. The huge boulders were maneuvered and positioned about 20 feet inside the embankment. This is fact. It was intended that these should serve as a bulwark or safeguard and restrict the maneuvers of heavy equipment from operating close to the edge of the embankment, and also as a barrier to protect pedestrians from coming too close to the precipice. From our examination of the locality, there was no evidence of an excavation pit created on the mining site or adjacent to the Rabaca Dry River. All heavy equipment and machinery were kept at significant and safe distances from the banks of the Rabaca River. All excavations and grading were executed in accordance with the operation and safety rules as set out by the U.S. Institute of Mining, Sand and Gravel Mining. Extensive erosion along banks of the Lady Jane River. You've heard the allegation contained in the statutory order. The Lady Jane River runs along the southern boundary of Bigger Cement and Aggregate property, where it flows from west to east and is bounded with approximately 7 acres of land. The topography over this entire area bounding is similar to that which is bounded by the Rabaca Dry River. At all material times, no mining activities were carried out on any portion of this area along the Lady Jane River. The only works which were conducted there was in relation to site preparation for the establishment of the crushing plant, storage yard for products after crushing operations, and the construction of block-making shed. All of these works were implemented consistent with the site location plans and diagrams, which were submitted with Bigger Trucking and Block Construction application for planning permission, and which were approved by the Physical Planning and Development Board. Upon our examination of the site, there was no evidence that mining activity was ever conducted in or adjacent to the Lady Jane River, and we were reliably informed by the operators that no mining was ever contemplated in proximity to this river. The evidence will show that state operators mined within the Lady Jane River. And we have photographs to establish that. It is our opinion that the natural erosion of the banks of the Lady Jane River by stream flow has been occurring from time immemorial. This had absolutely nothing to do with the mining activities on the neighboring site. The remedial steps directed by the order. The remedial steps directed in the statutory order. Backfill the excavations to eliminate ponding. This was really a joke. Technically, and even from a common sense standpoint, a 5-year-old child is seized with the knowledge on the basis of evidence that you can't have ponding in sand or gravel. There was no ponding of stormwater ever on this site. Ponding is not possible given the permeability of the natural sand and gravel overburden. Reinstate the topsoil and institute vegetation to all excavated areas. In the natural process of time, the evidence will reveal that no topsoil is removed on site and that vegetation will thrive immediately upon cessation of mining. This is so because of the chemical or volcanic origin of the sand and gravel up at Rabuka. 2 weeks after Bega Biggs was closed down, the operations of mining had ceased. You could have gone there and see vegetation thriving. And that is so because of the very nature of the chemical composition of the sand and gravel, which would allow the growth of vegetation. Indeed, this has already occurred to the extent that the crusher plant and other equipment have now been overtaken by vegetation. Substantial rehabilitation of the works would now be required in order to reinstate quarrying or other industrial operations on the site, which is now commonly utilized by local farmers for grazing livestock. And we have photographs which show the various aspects of the mining operations and the conditions on the site, which we took on the 20th of February, 2013. And these are available for your review. Terrace and shape the embankment along the Lady Jane River. This is one of the requirements that they asked him to do. The bank of this river is susceptible to erosion and the flow of the river is prone to vary from time to time. And this is a natural process. Any attempt at building up material along the river bank is likely to be futile and may well result in serious erosion and land slippage at various points along its flow. However, Bigger Trucking and Construction is willing to cooperate with the board to explore the feasibility of using similar boulders as have been utilized. Now, I think I should stop there. I don't think I should go on anymore. I cannot imagine that anyone seized with any level of technical competence would have advised the minister responsible for mining to close the operations down on the basis of what is contained in this statutory order. I think I should stop there.
So I'll just invite Mr. Clive Bishop to tell us a little bit about soils, as he's also a soil expert. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just like to give you some technical information concerning the soil type on the site where Bigger Biggs construction was taking place to verify what Mr. Stewart has just said. Now, that soil type there is called recent volcanic ash soils. The recent volcanic ash soils, the parent rock of these soils is ash from the Soufriere volcano, including ash from the eruption of 1902. The soils are characteristically coarse textured and gray in color. And the soil map has shown that the soils are differentiated firstly on site, on the basis of site, and secondly of texture. In terms of texture, there is a measurement called the index of texture. And this determines the sandiness or cleanness of a site, soil type. How is this measured? The index of texture is measured by a mathematical formulation. IT index of texture is equal to P minus S over 5. Now what do these mean? P is the sticky point, the values of moisture content of the soil at the sticky point. And S is the content of coarse and fine sand. The lower the index of texture, the coarser the material, the higher the permeability and infiltration rate. The soil in particular, according to a soil survey done in 1934 by Professor Hardy, C.K. Robinson, and G. Rodriguez, taken at two depths, first 6-inch layer and second 6-inch layer, is respectively 1 and 2. 1 and 2. You can't go lower than that in terms of determining an index of texture. It means this is coarsest soil in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In comparison, if you look at other soil types like the Greg's clay loam and clay, the soil that is at Green Hill where the housing is being done now, or at Anscan and Clay Valley, the index of texture would be in the 30s and in the 40s. It shows you that they have a very low permeability and a low infiltration rate. So in this type of soil, technically, ponding is totally impossible. From a practical point of view, if it was possible, since 1903, when the Banner had settled there and planted coconuts, you would have heard of some level of ponding already. We have never heard of that. That's just a common sense way of looking at it. This particular soil type is called the Soufriere cindery gravelly loamy sand, and it has different grade variants. Another document which was written in 1958 by Spector, Watson, and Jones says, in general, no great harm is done by erosion. And this is what Mrs. Stewart is pointing out. Since the soil is easily regenerated by incorporating organic matter into the exposed parent material, so that in a matter of weeks, once organic matter comes to that soil, vegetation comes back again. It also says that the soil, it is a characteristic feature of this soil type, Soufriere series, that although it has been eroded away on steep slope, upland slopes, and also on the lower sides, it is subjected to river scouring. It means that the river is responsible for erosion downstream, not any human activity, naturally the river. And if you go there and look at it, you will see that. That is why we have been continuously having and removing what we call Rabaca stuff for time immemorial. It comes down from the high areas by natural process. And it is taken out by natural process and by human activity. So this has nothing at all to do with the activities that bigger construction company were conducting at the time. It goes on to say the series is well drained, possesses rapid infiltration rate, and in areas where there's a slight pan, about 6 or 12 inches, the pan surprisingly possesses rapid permeability. The soil displays no great erosion hazard, but some damage is done by runoff along bare tracks. The excessively cindery variant of this soil is situated at a lower topographic level. Its greatest extent flanking the Rubica Dry River. That means right where Bega is, and to the other side, flanking the Rubica Dry River, is the greatest extent of the soil type. It may well owe its formation to the removal of overlying loose ash by river action. This was written in 1958. The first document was written in 1934. It shows how continuous river action was causing erosion from the material higher up and lower down, and so it's an act of nature. It has nothing to do with the operations of this company. So the claim of ponding is totally false. It's not possible technically. So why that was there, I can't really say. But I'm saying from a technical perspective, ponding on this particular soil type is impossible.
Thank you. So subsequent to the SR&O of February 11th, 2011, Leon Samuel made a lot of effort to try to regain permission to conduct his mining operation. There were meetings and communications going back and forth between Leon Samuel and the planning authorities, including, and I'll give you just an account of the types of things that were going on so you can get an understanding of it. A response to the November 9th notice. You remember he was given a notice 2 days prior to the gazetting of this SR&O from the Planning Board, dated February 10th, 2011, after which he was served the SR&O on the following day. And then there was a letter to the Physical Planning Development Board dated March 2nd, 2011, requesting a meeting with them to discuss remedial measures after he had obtained the evaluation report from Stewart Engineering. On March 24th, the Secretary of the Physical Planning and Development Board responded by informing him that his mining development was now subject to the SR&O number 2 of 2011, and as such, and I'll quote, the Physical Planning and Development Board does not consider itself the responsible body to address any query emanating from the imposition of such an order, end of quote. Bigger Biggs on the 29th of March wrote to the Honorable Clayton Bergin in his capacity as Minister of Housing and Physical Planning, informing him of the communication with the Physical Planning Development Board and their response. In the letter, Bigger also requested a meeting with the Minister and the Technical Committee to discuss, and I quote, any actions that may be taken by us, either to avoid the complete closure of the operations or failing that, as to the practical implementation of the board's requests, which are communicated in its letter dated 11th of February 2011, end of quote. In response to this, Leon received a letter dated April 14, 2011 from the Ministry of Housing and Physical Planning, informing him that a meeting is to be convened to discuss the remedial measures he may be instructed to take. In May 2011, Bigger received an invitation from the Ministry of Housing and Physical Planning. It was scheduled on May 11th to discuss the remedial measures. He was also informed that the members of the technical committee crafted by the Physical Planning and Development Board will be present. The meeting was held as planned, and several government officials were present at the meeting, including the Attorney General, Judith Jones Morgan, the Chief Engineer, Mr. Brent Bailey, Town Planner, Mr. Anthony Bowman, the Chief Surveyor, Mr. Adolphus Oliver, and others. According to the minutes of this meeting, the Attorney General apparently stressed that the purpose of her presence in the meeting was to, and I will quote from the minutes, to ensure that Mr. Samuel understood the meaning, demands, and seriousness of the Protection of the Environment Rabaca Order Number 2 of 2011. After reviewing the obligations of Bigger Trucking and Blocks Construction Limited, the Attorney General further informed Leon Samuel that failure to comply with the order would result in legal action being taken against his company. You will recall in the first tape that the Prime Minister stated that Cabinet took the decision on the basis of environmental issues. Okay? On November 8th, 2013, Leon Samuel was given the go-ahead by the Physical Planning and Development Board that he should reapply for permission to resume his mining operation, which he submitted on November 26, 2013. Whilst all of this is taking place, the pressure on the government heightens because this matter is also being discussed on radio and via the internet. Hence, the information reaches the Catholic bishop, and he too is inspired to address the issue of Bigger Bigs on humanitarian grounds by way of a letter to the clergy. So following this, on October 2nd, 2014, Bigger Bigs received a letter from the Physical Planning and Development Board to the effect that the board had decided to reinstate the mining approval for Bigger Trucking and Block Construction Limited. Many of us will recall that Bigger was all happy because he thought that the efforts to regain his license had been fruitful and he had gained relief. But it was very short-lived because on October 7th, Bigger received another letter from the Physical Planning Unit. And I will proceed to read that letter. It was addressed to Leon Samuel, and it says, "Dear Sir, notwithstanding the Physical Planning and Development Board's approval granting permission for mining operations to be carried out at Rabaca, and subsequent transmittal of this decision to you by way of the document Form 10A, Notice of Decision on Application for Development, outlining the conditions governing the mining operations, you are hereby advised that the following legal requirements are conditions precedent before any such operations can commence. A mining license must be applied for and granted by the National Quarries Board, Ministry of Works. 2, the restrictions outlined in the SR&O number 2 of 2011 must be revised. It goes on to say, further, as outlined to you in the meeting of the Physical Planning and Development Board's Technical Committee on 26 September, Cabinet approval is also required. And it is signed by Colin Campbell, the town planner. And you need to note the key to that letter is that Cabinet approval is also required. I would like to play you another tape of the Prime Minister speaking at a press conference on the 14th of November 2014. Can I have tape number 3, please? A and B.
In my absence, the planning authorities, the planning board, approved an application from Bigger Bigs Construction for the land use at Rabaca for mining. Of course, as has been made public before, could mine, on which parcel of land is to mine. Bigger Bigs is to mine. And also to keep the roadway open. But you know, from the beginning, I've always insisted that this is not a political question, but a technical question. And remember the words that I use. It's a technical issue. The planning board has acted. I was informed, like everybody else, about the planning board decision. The government, the political directorate was informed, and people may find that a strange thing. But it's not strange, because we are saying this is not a political issue, this is a technical issue. I don't know how many persons have gone and read the Tongan Country Planning Act, chapter 334 of the laws of St. Vincent and Grenadines. And it behoves everybody to look at the law when you're commenting. In accordance with Section 3 of the Tongan Country Planning Act, you have a board consisting of 15 persons. The Physical Planning and Development Board. Everybody, 12 of these persons are office holders, professional people. 3 are persons who the law says that cabinet could appoint. I want you to reflect on that. Of a board of 15, 3 the cabinet could appoint. 12 occupied official positions. It's a technical board. Board is 12. The director of planning, of national properties, the chief engineer, the chief agricultural officer, the chief surveyor, the chief environmental health officer, the general manager of the Housing and Land Development Corporation, the manager of the Central and Water Sewage Authority, the general manager of the St. Vincent Electricity Services Limited, the commissioner of police, the warden of the town board, permanent secretary, the Ministry of Physical Planning, or their respective nominees. Those are the 12. And then the cabinet appoints 3 persons. The 3 persons the cabinet appointed are the chairman, Mr. Ken Stogan, businessman, accountant by training, Mr. Kenrick Brown, who is a man skilled in the area technically, and Fred Stay in teaching. He's at the, I think there's a school of special needs, I think he teaches. Those are 3 persons the cabinet appointed, so that when people talk about the government Bigger Bigs the license,